Hello, this is Pat Walker at Mission Winners doing the video overview of the ETFs. We're looking at cloud computing, weekly on the left, daily on the right. Right here you can see it's below the moving averages, gapped up and reversed down, and it's fallen since then. What does that tell us? Be careful. The next stock on the list, electric vehicles. Look what it's doing, dropping here. Here's the weekly dropping, daily dropping, below the moving average, below the 50-day. Be careful with that. Avoid. Dow Jones Internet, it's lagging here too, big reversal bar. I have to stress something. Please don't think, oh, Pat's negative. No, I'm just literally observing what's going on. That's all, and that helps guide us. Here's the weekly. Dow Jones Internet's really been lagging for a while. Look at the tail bars. This is a great lesson for everybody. When you see a stock run up and drop, and then run up and drop off the same line, and then run up and drop off the same line, and it did it again this week. Look at this. I'll draw this for you. I love this stuff. This is fun, like a kid in a candy store. Here we go. There it is. That's close enough. You can see those tops. What does that tell you? There's a seller up there. Avoid it for now. That makes life easier. Right here, IBD 50, really lagging. Be careful with that. Folks, look at this. You won't see this in any chart books saying, this is what you look for to buy. By the way, that's not a reflection against Investors Daily, nothing like that. Just pointing out, the IBD 50 is a great index of leading stocks. They've done their homework on them. This is what they're doing. Nothing. Be careful. Gold miners, a little bit of support here on the 21-day. Maybe something to consider. Here's the tops on the weekly. By the way, we bought this right here. Had a good trend and locked some in, and it worked out okay. VIPs owned it. Here we go. The next one, gold, rallies up, gaps, reverses down. Be careful with that. There's just not a lot of good things happening here, okay? Slight pickup. It's still above the 21-day, but again, there's some resistance there. Overall, I'm going to say this several times for everybody. Please be careful. No vengeance trading. Don't try to get back at the market. Don't try to get back at the stocks. Don't try to, quote unquote, get even, all right? The stock is not a living entity. It doesn't know we exist. So we just get in line with what is happening. It makes life easier. Here we go. Biotechnology rallied up, started to drop. Doesn't look too bad on the weekly, okay? One of the better looking setups right now. Just be careful with it. I just can't stress that enough, okay? Continue onwards. Online retail, lagging badly. Look, you've got a tail bar here, runs up and drops the next day. A tail bar here, it's below the 50-day. What's that telling you? Stay away from online retail. Oil and gas, maybe a double bottom down here, but it's below the falling 50-day. There's just not a lot of power there. I'd be careful, all right? Continue onwards. Technology, software, look at that big reversal bar. Gaps up and closes near the lows on a pickup in volume. That's a great lesson. When you see that, be careful. Heed it. There's no leadership with it really right here, okay? Dow Jones Medicine rallied up, and it's been dropping ever since. Doesn't look too bad, but again, do you see a lot of power in this right here? No, and it's falling on increasing volume here on Friday. Be careful. The next one on the list, continue onwards. Mid-cap, S&P Core Mid-cap, and it's dropping. Look at that, and it's crashed or fell right through the 50-day on a pickup in volume. Be careful with that. Can't stress it enough. Home construction, now look at this, doesn't look too bad. It's above, it's bounced off the 50-day and the 21-day. That's the best looking one I've seen so far. Now, is there a great setup on this here? Well, possibly taking out these highs, and I'm going to show you the weekly right here. See that line right there? Needs to show some real power. And remember this, the M in Mission Winners, the market. How's the market? Well, we're going to get to it in a minute, but it's not so good. So we're to the side of caution. S&P growth, look at this thing dropping. Be careful with that. And it's also falling on the weekly on increasing volume. Look at the heavier volume on Friday. It's below the 50-day. Be careful with that. The next one, small cap. Cracks right through the 50-day and it's still falling on a pickup in volume. You're not going to see this in any book saying, this is the setup that you look for to buy. Okay, so overall be careful with that. Jets, Look at that. Big gapped up and reverses down, closes near the lows, a little bit below the 50-day. Not a lot of power there. I'd be careful. Regional banking. Yeah, there's a run on the banks. Look at this. No good. Be careful with that. It's like the Bailey Building and Loan. Gee whiz, huh? Medcap, MDY. Not a lot of power here. Be careful. Oil services. That's got a higher low setup. Okay. Potential. Maybe. This was a great run for us, by the way. I have to show you this. Look at the clean and simple base. Look at the volume pickup. And look at the move. This is why everybody says, oh, there's nothing going on. Many times when it's really bad, we just do nothing. But back here, that's a great run, folks. Yeah, it was on the key list. VIPs owned it. There you go. It works. We called out the buy alert. Here we go. Continue onwards. And what do? We sell some into strength. Let me continue onwards here. Online retail, this just tells you, stay away. There's nothing good with it. Leave it alone. Stay away from the industry group. Pharmaceuticals, this is one of the better looking ones. Rallying and bouncing here are falling down to the rising 21-day. What's the negative on this? I'll make it bigger for you. It fell on heavier volume. Be cautious. Overall, my key point here is this. You can see in almost all the sectors, things don't look so good. Be careful. Now this is the short one, QID. There's QLD and there's QID. This is actually picking up. You can say, this looks better. This is the inverse. This goes up when the market's falling. Look what it's doing. So something that bears watching. Same thing with SDS. You can see that right there. Okay, picking up a little bit. Overall, I want to share this with everybody. Please don't think, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this since 1986, managing money, etc. Please err to the side of caution here. Please don't think, I used to say this at the IBD meetup frequently, just because the market's open for business doesn't mean we have to do business. Wait for your setups, then hit it, and if things start picking up, hit it hard and hit it harder. Till then, err to the side of caution. This is the NASDAQ 100. It doesn't look so good. And here's the weekly, falling on increasing volume. Just err to the side of caution. Things will turn. And this is the beautiful part, and this is what we teach in Mission Winners. It's like, there's nothing going on. This is crazy. I don't look at anything. You got to keep looking, all right? But you have to practice good tactics because eventually this will turn. I need to share something, and this I'm being brutally blunt, okay? Bull markets have not been outlawed, okay? And I'm not trying to sound like a cheerleader. Again, like I said, I managed money through the crash of '87. It was like, it's the end of the world. Well, look what it's done since then. There will be opportunities eventually, and we will be ready with a clear head and no baggage. And that really helps us. Here we go. Retailing, it doesn't look so good. Looks like it's on sale for me, or to me. Here we go. Cloud computing, lagging here. Look at that big reversal bar there. I'll make this a little bigger for you. That's not so good. Look at this. Runs up and drops. Runs up and drops. Runs up and drops. At about the same place. Look at that line right there, folks. Then it does this. Runs up and drops. Runs up and drops. Gaps up right near the old highs there. Runs up and drops. What does that tell you? And continues dropping. Be careful with cloud computing. There you go. Silver's hanging in there. That doesn't look too bad. Maybe bouncing off the ADMA. There we go. But remember, the M and Mission Winners, the M and CanSlim, the markets. Don't ignore the markets. Steel. It's lost a little bit of its metal. Okay, that's dad humor. My kids would just shake their head. You can see these tops here, and it's backing down here a little bit. Not the best setup, okay? Err to the side of caution. Continue onward. Semiconductors gaps up and reverses down on a pickup in volume and drops. Look at the weekly. What does that tell you? Be cautious. Be careful. Continue on. The spiders. Look at this thing dropping on steadily increasing volume, folks. This is the S&P 500. Don't ignore it. I look at these every day for the VIPs and talk about them. You got to be cautious with this. SSO, similar situation. Dropping, heavy volume on Friday. Okay. What's it need to do? You can say, Patrick, cut to the chase. What does this need to do for us to get interest? It needs to, for us, or get involved. Potential. Take out Friday's highs on really heavy volume. Okay. That's what you'd be looking for. Now, there's a lot of selling in this. So how do you control risk if you buy it? Please know this. Good investing is not one size fits all. You get more aggressive in a good market with the good setups. When things are sloppier, you do less and you buy less shares. It will really help you. People say, but Pat, I won't make as much money. And I'll say in a choppy market like this, you won't lose as much money. There you go. And it will turn. Bull markets have not been outlawed. It will turn. I guarantee it. Okay? And in the brokerage business, in the finance business, you're never supposed to use the word guarantee. Well, I guarantee it. It will turn. When? I don't know the future. Nobody does. But we get in line and we're always prepared. Let's keep on going here. Solar, it's kind of losing leadership here and it's fallen on increasing volume. Doesn't look too bad. Still above the 50-day. There you go. Continue onward. Small cap. Look at this. It's like IWM. Look at this drop. What's that tell you? Stay away from the small caps. That's simple. Next one. Uranium, not so good. Okay? Not even with a Geiger counter is it so good. Oil, lagging. It was a great run, but now it's not doing anything. Be careful with that. Aerospace and defense, picking up a little bit here. And check this out. I just showed you a ton of charts that fell the last day or two. And this actually closed up. But it's loose. I mean, look at this. It runs up here and gaps. Runs up here and gaps. Runs up here and reverses down. It's looser. Be careful with that, okay? Is that a word, looser? Okay. Anyway, it's loose. Biotechnology is quite choppy also. Be careful with that. Home builders. Gapped up and reversed down. Look at how it closed. It was met with sellers. Just because it's a green bar, don't think it's a good bar. You've got to take a look at the open, high, low, close. And you can see it's kind of sloppy. Be cautious with it. XLB materials kind of lagging here. Still above the 50-day, but not a lot of power. And look at the weekly. Look at that. That's not so good. Energy was great. Oh, energy was good to us. But now it's lost some leaderships, and we basically moved out of a lot of them. We never argue with them. Remember this. I'm going to say it again. Opinions don't pay. Forecasts don't pay. One thing pays. Price pays. Get in line with it, and life is easier. Financials, nothing really great there. Okay? Be cautious with that. You can see it's below the 50-day. I always told people the air is better above the 50-day, especially a rising 50-day. Not a lot of power here. The spell is still above the 50-day. Okay? But look at what it did here. Do you see this? It gapped up, and look at how it closed in the bottom third of its range on a pickup in volume. It was met with selling pressure. That's just looking at the charts. It makes us better. Helps us. Technology gaps up, reverses down, and since then it's been falling with the market. Maybe support on the 50-day. We'll have to watch and see. But it's fallen on increasing volume. Technology. There's another sector that's underperforming. Consumer staples. Now this one is hanging in fairly well. I just showed you a bunch of them. They're hitting the 50-day or losing the 50-day. This one isn't, right? I'm not saying buy it, but I want you all to think about this. What are consumer staples? These are items we have to buy, okay? You got to buy toilet paper. You got to buy toothpaste. You got to buy that stuff, right? Staples, which is what? It's more of a defensive sector, correct? I'm not saying buy this, but it's talking to you. This is hanging in here because these are consumer necessities, all right? And it's hanging a little bit below the rising 21 EMA. I'm not saying buy it, but it just tells you about the strength or weakness in the market. Let's continue onward here. Retail, they ain't shopping, are they? Look at that. They're not buying. They're buying necessities. They're buying toothpaste and stuff. But as far as other items, they're not buying. Here we go. Utilities, even that ran up and fell on an increase in volume on Friday. Not the best setup. And look at the weekly. There we go. I love looking at the weekly and the daily side by side. Healthcare's losing some luster here. Still it's just a little bit below the 21-day. But again, that's above the rising 50-day. This isn't a great setup right here. You won't see this in any chart book saying, this is what you look for to buy. You won't hear Bill O'Neill. You see this setup right here? You see where it's gone? Right here. I know it doesn't look like a cup and a handle, but you see that right there? Just watch this. No. By the way, that man changed my life. I'm grateful to have met him a couple of times. Nice guy. A kind soul. Just a great guy. So anyway, be careful with that. Consumer discretionary. I showed you consumer staples, necessities. This is discretionary stuff. Stuff you don't have to have to live, okay? Discretionary items. That ain't so good, is it? Be careful with that. The charts talk. The next one on the list. Metals and mining, support on the 50-day, that's decent, but not great. There's some selling in there. Overall, be careful. Another energy, XOP, has a higher low, but there's nothing really great here. Higher low setup, but in this market, not the best things to slice bread. Retailing, another retail ETF. Look at this thing dropping. Look at that, gaps up and how it closes. It's telling you, be careful, be careful. And we heed that. Software, look what this does. It runs up and drops. Well, here, it runs up and drops. 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 And it does it again. I'm not saying this to be cute. I'm just pointing out what to look for in the charts. When you see something gap up and reverse and close near the lows, be cautious. It's met with sellers. That's a good lesson, by the way. Okay, that's the real world. So now let's look at the MAXLIST stocks. And there's always telltale signs in the charts. Look at this. Runs up and drops. Runs up and drops. Runs up and gaps down. Runs up and reverses down. Runs up and drops and drops. That's Apple. What does that tell you? This is the daily chart and this is the weekly on the left. They're selling it. They're selling into it. Just leave it alone. We haven't been involved in this for a while. Okay? Just leave it alone. In fact, when was the last time we were involved with it? Right back here in July. This baby had a higher low setup. And I have to show you this. We're going to go to the daily chart and I'll show you one of our favorite patterns right here. Higher low. The market was doing it too. This low is higher than this low. And it starts to lift up. Volume's decent. And that's a March. That's the higher low setup. But here it is now. That ain't so good, right? Leave it alone. Just leave it alone for now. Amazon, same situation. Maybe a double bottom here, falling on increasing volume. But this isn't a great pattern. And you combine it with the action in the markets. Mission winners, the first letter's M. Be cautious. And we have been. We don't argue with it. The next one. Alibaba started a lift right here. And it gaps up and reverses down. And then it gaps up again and reverses down. Not the best setup. Maybe it'll sell off or I'll set up again and you'll be ready for it. Moral here is just be careful. Just be careful. Don't force things. That will really help you. That will really help you. BIDU, another one. So, oh boy, the Chinese stocks are going. Well, so much for that. Google, it's just choppy here. Green bar, gaps up and reverses down. This doesn't look so good. I'd be cautious with Google, all right, until this market turns. Goldman Sachs had tops here and couldn't get through them on the daily. Here's the weekly. Couldn't get through them, starts to fall. Worry in it? No, you stay away. You have to wait. And we'll be ready again with a clear head. MasterCard gaps up and closes near the lows and falls from there. Maybe support on the 21-day. Here's the weekly. Just be careful. Meta. This one actually doesn't look too bad here. It's basing, okay? And you can see it ran, well, you can see the tops. I'll draw it for you. If you have to look for it, by the way, it's not there. There you go. But notice this bar. You say, oh, that's a green bar. It gapped up, ran up, closed in the bottom fourth of its range on a pickup in volume. It was met with selling pressure until it takes out that line in a good market. And with this stock breaking on really good volume, err to the side of caution. That's simple. Microsoft starts to break out and they take it right back. And this is a great lesson for everybody. And these are the things we teach. I'll say it again. Just because it's a green bar with good volume doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad bar. Same thing's true if it's red on heavier volume. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad bar. Look at right here. It gaps up, runs up, and closes in the bottom half of its range on a pickup in volume. The next day, runs up and closes in about the same spot, and then it starts to fall again. Were we involved with it? No. No, we don't argue with the markets. We don't argue with the stocks. We're safe. Netflix, not so good here, folks. Nothing really to do with it. Be cautious. And note this. Note the drop down here, the gap down on a pickup in volume. Selling pressure. Be cautious. NVIDIA started to lift, but see this bar here? If you own it, gaps up, runs up, and reverses down on a pickup in volume. They sold into that strength, folks, and look at what it does. Since then, it's been dropping. Support on the 21-day, but what do we need? A good market too. And it will come. Know this. And I was managing money through the crash of 87. Don't think that bull markets have been outlawed. We will turn. When? I don't know. Nobody knows the future. But I do know this by looking at the charts. We know what to look for and we know what to do. And it's fun. It's fun. It's mentally invigorating. I love the challenge. So let's continue onwards here. Tesla. It's just not good here, folks. There's nothing great here at this time. Eventually, it will turn, and we will be ready with a clear head and no baggage. But until then, leave it alone. Here's a good maxim for you, and I used to say this a lot at the meetups. The air's better above a rising 50-day. Okay, that's the green line. The air's better above a rising 50-day. So just err to the side of caution. Visa gaps up, reverses down on a pickup in volume, and look at what it's done since then. Just leave it alone. By the way, look at the weekly. You think there's a seller across here? I'll draw it for you. There's so much information in the charts, and the best part is this. This is not physics. This ain't that fancy, folks. Runs up and backs off, runs up and gaps down, runs up and backs off, runs up and backs off, runs up and reverses down. Leave it alone. Until it starts to take this out on the weekly, you just have to wait. And that's simple. Weekly and daily. Love this setup. Spiders. What do you see? Yeah, those tail tops right there. And look at the drop. There's nothing to do with this at this point in time. Maybe, okay, I'll give you a setup. Maybe it's going to bounce off the 50-day and take out Friday's highs. Now, let's talk about this. What would we look for? Well, first off, taking out Friday's highs. Secondly, doing it on really heavy volume, okay? Buying, they're buying it. And it's measured on the daily, the hourly, and the 30-minute. You can see the surges. That could be a potential setup to start small. But it's an aggressive entry, okay? And there's selling pressure in here. So let's suppose you say, I really want to do this because it's lifting. What could you do? If you buy less shares. And that will really help you. By the way, I'm not giving a trade here or anything or a buy. I'm just trying to explain a setup and how to do it and then how to manage it. You buy it, if it runs up, great. Starts to fall, don't have a problem. Limit your losses. It'll really help you. SSO, similar situation below the 50-day on a pickup in volume. Be careful with that. That's just no good. QQQ, look at this thing dropping on a pickup in volume below the 50-day. That's not good. Because that's a good green bar. This is a great lesson. Note it where it opened. Opened near the highs, gapped up, and look at how it closed. Closed in the bottom half, maybe the bottom third of its range on a pickup in volume. They sold into it. They sold into it. Those are the kind of lessons we teach at Mission Winners. And you know what's beautiful? It's not fancy. It's simple, and it's conceptually correct, right? It gaps up and closes down near the bottom half of its range on a pickup in volume. It's selling. They're selling it. That's simple. Don't argue with it. And that will help you. That will help you. Let's continue on. We're about done. QLD, same situation as QQQ. Gaps up and closes down on a pickup in volume. It's fallen since then. We don't have anything to do with it. We'll leave it alone. MDY is choppy here. Really nothing to do with it. Be cautious. IWM, that's ugly. That's just ugly. But eventually it will turn. Here's the beautiful part. You're not in it. You're okay. So we can observe it objectively, knowing that eventually it will create a good buying opportunity. And you and I and the team will be ready with no baggage. This is stuff we do at Mission Winners. It's what we talk about. Not a lot. It's fun. It's fun. Like I said, it's stimulating. There's IWM like we talked about. TNA, not so good. And then we go back to the top of the max list. Anyway, that is an overview of the big mambo stocks, the big must-known institutional stocks. And right now, they're not so good. But eventually, they will be, and we will be ready.
Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like. Maybe hit that subscribe button. We come up with new content nearly every day. Also, check out the videos on the right. YouTube recommends the one on the top, and the bottom one is something we thought you might enjoy. See you next time.